What is up, y'all? We are here to talk about Real Housewives of Atlanta, episode 3. I had to pull up my notes. This was a good episode. I really enjoyed this episode. Like, finally, I feel like we are in the swing of things and it's moving, and it's feeling like a regular Housewives season to me. Like, I don't know if I'm watching it trying to see like what's happening and see if it's gonna work out. I just naturally enjoyed it, so that was great. I want to say bravo, please stop starting these episodes off with the Sonya and the Marlos and the Sheree. Like, I don't want to see that. Like, I don't want to see none of that. I know that some of these people are y'all girls. I don't want to see that. And if you are a fan of Marlo, I'm not understanding why, but I'm gonna just go ahead and say that. Yeah, we start off with Sonya, Marlo, and Sheree. They weren't talking about nothing. They're never talking about anything. Sheree was talking about being with Martell and how the girls should be supportive. And she said, you know, she had talked about how, like, oh my God, like Martell picked me up from the airport the other day. Like, girl, you're in your 50s. And a man picking you up from the airport is impressive. Like, that's what's noteworthy to you. Like, come on, girl, stand up. Let's do something else, please. And we move on to Drew and what's his name? Drew and dang, what's that man's name? Ralph. Drew and Ralph. Y'all know I don't care about that either. But you know, they go rock climbing. That looked fun. I enjoyed that. The thing is, like, what the same thing that they say about Drew all the time, where like she's an actress, she's an actress. It be feeling like that with Ralph, because whenever she say stuff, she genuinely feels like she's in the conversation. But then Ralph be like, yeah, like. Anywho, the only thing that struck me there was Ralph calling them Ike and Tina. And then Drew turned around and calling them Beyonce and Jay-Z. And I'm like, D, none of the above. Kenya cussing out her employees. There's nothing new here. She's been known to do that. However, I will say it felt like, I don't think it was as intense as it was painted out to be. I think maybe that's how they communicate. Not to say that that's okay, but I feel like maybe they kind of just go back and forth and have that level of banter with each other. I don't know that it's like the like strict terrible employer thing that it had previously been kind of portrayed to be, and I don't know that that's what they were trying to portray this time. I had just thought about it, like, I'm like, oh, this was a thing before where they were like Kenya talks to employees in a bad way. So I don't know, but it didn't strike me too much. What did strike me was that glittery wall and door in her glam room, and I'm like, Kenya, we gotta grow up. Like, why do your walls have glitter on them? Let's do something else, because the house is beautiful. That doesn't work for me. Maybe it's cute in the context of the whole room. Maybe I need to see the whole room, but I wasn't living for that. Then we get to them talking about BravoCon. And somebody had tweeted, like, I'm so glad that they're saying BravoCon and not back in New York. And I was like, yes. Like, I don't know if y'all ever caught that, but like on other shows, when they talk about beef, I think it was most recently Beverly Hills, they had, and I could be wrong, I don't know, but it was one of these franchises, they had some beef at BravoCon, but when it came to the season, they're like, well, back in New York, and back in New York, and back in New York, and it's like, girl, it's not breaking the fourth wall for you to say BravoCon. We know y'all went to BravoCon. We know things happen at BravoCon, so just say BravoCon. So thank God they were doing that. It didn't feel so childish like it typically does. But they get to Kandi talking about what happened with Mama Joyce and the fact that her and Todd have been married for 55 years. And Mama Joyce still don't like Todd, which is fine. I like the position that Kandi is taking now, where she's just like, at this point, like, I don't want to hit a BS anymore from my mama. Like, I'm married. If you don't like my husband, you don't have to like my husband, but I don't want to hear about it, and I don't want you saying negative stuff. And I did think that it was messed up that the information came to Todd from his daughter. Because at the end of the day, she's not related to Mama Joyce by blood, you know, so I don't know what her relationship is with her. But it's like, at the end of the day, the way that I would look at it is your wife's mother is talking more shit about you. And that's weird. And I'm not feeling that. And I think I get Kayla's personality. And I'm sure that that's kind of how it came to Todd. So I'm sure Todd was just like, so I'm glad that Kandi is kind of mirroring that energy now. And she's like, I don't want to hear that BS. Like, I'm tired of it. It seems like that's the season that Kandi's in. Like, girl, I'm tired of the BS. I'm not trying to hear it, not even from my mama. Go do something else. Let's move on. We get back around to Drew and Ralph. and they're hanging out with Courtney, which is fine. Like I appreciate the fact that Courtney has somebody to hang out with and genuinely like film with and do something with. But they really pushing this whole family thing. I get it though. Like that's how black people are. Like we see people, we be like brother, cousin, da 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 da. But I'm tired. It's old. We get it. Okay. Like family, family, family. Like I don't want to hear all of that. This is not the Real Housewives in New Jersey. Like girl, be quiet. Okay, we get it. Y'all are cousins. I'm pretty sure it says it in the little description. Ralph's cousin. We get it. Be quiet. Move on. One thing I didn't get though was why did Courtney bring her baby daddy? Like it just wasn't clear to me. They not dating. I guess they're good friends or whatever, but their child is 24 years old. So their adult child is 24 years old. Why does he need to be here? It kind of made me think of like that thing where everybody's like, well, when you film on Housewives, they typically want you to have some sort of a partner or you can't really be on the show. So I'm wondering if she felt like she had to bring a man around, but even when she brought him around, she had made it clear like this is my baby daddy. This is my baby daddy and he here. And ironically, oh my God, he knows Drew. So I'm thinking like, did you bring him here because that's your baby daddy and he know Drew? Like we trying to connect some more dots. Like, can we please, like the episode started off good, even though we were filming with the three biggest losers on this cast. But the episode started off good. So let's not get back to this whole trying to make a storyline thing happen. Don't bring your baby daddy around just because he used to act and he know Drew and all this other BS. Like at the end of the day, that's just your baby daddy, and you could have left him at the crib. I don't really love seeing Drew and Ralph, and I don't really love seeing Courtney, but I enjoyed that scene, and I just thought it was hilarious how Drew picked up that phone and called Kandi, and Kandi was like, "Girl, like, oh, you with Courtney?
What?
Like, why you calling me? You know I don't like her.
Girl, you know I don't like this lady. Like, why are you on my phone with this?
Like, don't call me around that lady. Girl, what's going on?" Courtney seems like she's reasonable. Like, she annoying, but she seems like she's reasonable in that when Drew was like, well, I'm about to call Kandi, she like, well, girl, I'm going to go step to the back. Because they don't fool with each other. So, that's weird. I liked seeing the dynamic of Drew and Courtney talk about Sonya. That was tea. Like, I didn't even pick up on the fact that, like, well, obviously Drew has an opinion of Sonya, and I guess now Courtney has an opinion of Sonya. She brought up a good point. Sonya had went to Kandi and was basically like, well, Courtney, Courtney had an opinion about blah, 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 blah. Like, you wanted to get it off your chest or whatever. And Courtney, she was feeling some type of way about that because obviously Sonya is the flip-flop. She is. So Sonya be over here and she be over there, and sometimes she be up over there, then she be back there. We all know that about Sonya. Sonya know that about Sonya. So I'm glad that they were able to have that type of conversation, and Drew was able to tell her like, "Girl, Sonya is a piece of girl, a weird piece of girl. Sometimes she can be weird. So, learn it and get. Ain't that what they said? Learn it and let's keep it moving. Figure it out. Anybody that knows me knows that Candiace is my girl from the Real Housewives of Potomac. It is what it is. So I was excited about that. It could have been cheesy though. I will admit, like. It could have been real corny with the whole, like, Candiace calling her and being like, girl, come sing with me. But honestly, it did feel like it was genuine. It didn't feel like it was just like a let's force this storyline type of thing. It felt genuine. I like the backstory that they gave about how they know each other. It didn't sound like BS to me. So I was really excited to see Candiace. I'm always excited to see Candiace. Drew pulls up to Candiace's rehearsal. I'm going to be honest, I love Candiace, but I have not heard her album in its entirety. So I haven't really gotten into the music. I am going to see her show when she comes to New York. So I'm excited about that. I'm just going to experience it then, especially because I feel like the live will be way better. And I think that was highlighted by seeing this rehearsal. Like, her band sounded really good. She sounded really good. Like, I don't know if it's the shady editing on Potomac or whatever, but I feel like they always get these very weird, shaky edits of her singing. She always sounds good, but I don't feel like we always get the full capacity of what she could sound like. She sounded great on Atlanta. She looked great. The band sounded amazing. The performance looked amazing. It didn't seem shady at all. So I was like, okay, like, can't wait to see you. Like, I'll see you when you get to New York, period. So that was exciting. I was also really excited to see Chris at this event. Like, that was just fun. I think that it's fun to see them outside of the Potomac realm because, like I said, they don't have to be edited any type of way, and there's no story to push there. They just there to be there. Kenya looked amazing in that green dress. Even that scene where they had her walking, I think they just knew, like, she looks bomb. She looked great. I don't know if it's the color green. And I think also there was a season where she had a confessional with like a green dress and she had kind of like a side part and it was a little on the side with the hair. She looks bomb in green. Ralph was my mood this episode. Like, I don't really live for Ralph, but him asking for shots, he asked for shots at least 4 different times in this episode, and I live because that's my vibe. So, cheers to Ralph. I think that the performance was good. I liked what Drew came out and did. I didn't necessarily like what she had on. I don't know if that's a hard critique. I wish she would have, not that she needed to put on a leotard like Candiace because it ain't her show, but I don't know. I wish it would have gave something else. Just something else. I do think it was funny. The girls, I don't even want to say they were reading.
Woo woo. A woo woo.
It was a read. But like, yeah, I thought that was funny what they were saying. I think it was lighthearted. I don't think that they were trying to be big shady because at the end of the day, she sounded good. It was a good moment. The show looked like it was good, and it was nice to be able to get the girls together for something. Like, gather, girls, let's do this. But I also feel them, girl. You only did a doo-wop to pop, girl. Like, why do we need to be here for this? And you know why, ladies? Because we're on TV. And I like that they said it to her face afterwards. Like, I immediately noted after they talked about that, like, I like that Kandi was like, girl, I wish you would have performed your song. And then when they got to the back, it was like, girl, what was it giving? Like, why did you only give us 3 notes? And I don't think that it had to be this big confrontational moment. And even when Drew came her first season, I think she was super confrontational. So if she was still that Drew, she probably would have made it a confrontational moment. But I think we're seeing that Drew can actually, I think I'm choking on my words a little bit, but Drew can actually be kind of reasonable. And she was just like, well, girl, it's not my show. I did what I had to do and I got up off. And cheers to her. Cheers to her and cheers to Ralph. And you always want to leave the people wanting more because she could have did more and then it would have been way too much because we know Drew to do too much. So I'm glad that she left us wanting more. Great. Keep doing that. I like the moment of Sonya and Drew being able to have a conversation backstage. I like this ongoing story of them trying to actually have a friendship. I don't think that that's forced for storyline, so I like hearing that. And I think it humanizes Sonya and Drew. And I think it highlights even more how reasonable both of them can be. However, it's not going to go well, in my opinion. Like, I do think, I don't know, it's something about Sonya's personality that just it don't stick. Like, ain't nothing sticking. Like, she over here and she up over there. It's always going to be like that. That's how I feel. So I don't think she means anything bad or malicious, but it's always going to be like that. It is what it is. It's going to depend on the episode. I think it was funny that they referenced back to BravoCon because they obviously, like at Watch What Happens Live and at BravoCon, they do that segment called Squash That Beef. So I thought it was funny how they were like chanting Squash That Beef while they did it. That was fun. That was like old Atlanta vibes. That was cute. That was good for you, ladies. The thing is, though, with this moment, they was jumping through. Like, I feel like there was some stuff in the episode, maybe that could have been crunched down a little. I don't think that they filled the episode too much. Like, sometimes, we get, like, filler episodes. I didn't feel like this about this episode. However, I would have gone back through the editing through each of those other scenes and chopped off maybe like a couple seconds bit by bit of each so that I could give this backstage Ponderosa a little bit more life because they touched on like 3 different topics back there which were very important and really got into like the group dynamic and the story progression, and I just feel like they should have given it more life because it felt like it was very touch and go, and I just don't know why not. We get this one central beef for seasons and we just make that the main focus, and it's like, well, girl, the girls fight all the time. I understand sometimes the girls may be fighting about crayons, but that gets us in a group dynamics. It's not all about the beef itself. It's about the principle and the fact that, like, well, so-and-so had a beef with so-and-so, so maybe they're not feeling them right now, or maybe they're trying to feel each other. Like, we want to know about group dynamics. I think that's what you need for these ensemble cast shows, not can we beef about so-and-so being in a hotel room with so-and-so's husband all season. It's boring. Like, what is the dynamic and why are these things happening? And I think that's why we get upset when we have all of these deleted scenes and unshown scenes and we go back and they're like, oh, well, this lunch happened. And it's like, well, girl, you should have told us when it happened. I was thinking about this and I didn't miss Sheree at all. I know she gave her little shady moment where she was like, I don't want to watch Flop It with Drew. Sheree's reads are so late, and Sheree is late, and Sheree is a read. So it's like, girl, please. She didn't flop. It was a nice event. You could have went to work because we all, including myself, all begged to have you back on this show, and you came back to do nothing but give shady, sloppy, dry, late reads and hang out with Marlo. Do something else. Seriously. I appreciate Sonya pushing this scene through, even though it was going too fast. I appreciate the fact that Sonya was getting to the stories of it all. She's like, well, Mayetta, what's your tea? Courtney, what's your tea? Oh, look, I have tea too. So I appreciate the fact that Sonya was doing that, and it didn't feel forced and it didn't feel annoying. I feel like that's something that needed to happen. So if Sonya can do that more unbiasedly, I guess, which I don't feel like this was biased. That's not what I'm saying. But I feel like if she's going to do that and play that role on the show, I wish that she could be more of a central person in the group as opposed to looking more so like a flip flopper. Like that beef with Mayetta and Marlo, I just feel like that went by way too fast. Like, let's give Mayetta a little bit more time because she was speaking up and Marlo didn't have nothing to say. So, as usual. So it's just like, let Mayetta get it out. It's not a big issue. Like I was saying, like, not all issues are going to be big, but this is showing us the dynamic. And we didn't know that. Like, we didn't know Mayetta was feeling any type of way about Marlo saying, like, oh, well, Kandi allowed you to talk when they were in Jamaica. We didn't know that. So it was cool to figure that out and figure out that, Mayetta was feeling some type of way and she was being vocal about it and they were having a conversation about it. But they didn't get into it. I mean, I like that she kind of gathered Marlo and she was like, girl, bye. Because she was just giving a lazy read, Team Sheree. But I wish that they would have gotten into that conversation more. Maybe Marlo wasn't giving the conversation much because she doesn't know how to have a conversation, so maybe that's why there wasn't much to show. They definitely cut the Kandi and Marlo back and forth short. Like, I know that we had gotten some tea about the fact that the Marlo slashing her friend in the face thing had came up, and the internet was kind of thinking like, damn, I hope that they don't cut that because I don't know, we don't know the rules of Bravo and editing. Like, we don't know what's too explicit. We don't know what they're not going to show. So I'm glad that they included it, but it felt so glossed over. And even Candy's mic felt like it was all the way lower down when she said it, girl. I feel like I was listening like, like, can we have a conversation about this? Because Marlo sat down and she was like, okay, well, let's talk about it. And I can guarantee that they had a lengthy back and forth because when it comes to back and forth between them, those tend to be pretty lengthy back and forths, as we've seen in the past. So I'm sure that there was more dialogue to be heard. I don't know why it skipped through like that, especially because it seems like, even from a production standpoint, it seems like they're joining in on this argument that Kandi doesn't share enough. They're joining in with the fans. You guys got what you wanted, whatever petition you had going around. It feels like production is trying to push for Kandi to be activated. So in this moment, when we're having a debate about that pretty much exact thing, why wouldn't y'all show it? That doesn't make any sense to me, but okay. But I think that that was going to be a good back and forth for us to see, and I hate that they cut it so short. And also, like, let's play fair. Like, if we're going to talk about Kandi in this shoot at her restaurant, then we should be talking about what happened with Marlo slashing her friend in the face. Yes, we know about it, but we don't have the details, and we've never gotten the details. So why can't we sit here and talk about it? The door had been open, so why? I don't understand the editing. I just want to reference the part at the end and tie it all together when Drew was specifically telling Marlo, like, girl, I don't know what the issue is. It was all on the news. And if y'all didn't clock that tea, basically, this is an argument that I made last week on Twitter. If y'all want to go see me beef with strangers on Twitter, which I try my best not to do, but this was really getting me riled up. Like, I just don't understand what the people want to hear about this at Blaze. It was in the news. It was all over the blogs. It was all over the internet. It was everywhere. And it's just like, I don't understand what more production or anybody, Tom, Joe, and Fred, want to hear Kandi say about it. And I don't understand how this lends itself to the argument that Kandi doesn't share on TV. There's nothing to share. And she's not going to gain anything by not talking about this. And even when Marlo was trying to tie this whole thing together, and she's like, well, Drew, you don't want to use the word, and you should have, like, you don't want to use it because you don't want to offend Kandi or get Kandi upset. I didn't even use the word. I don't know the rules behind that. People's ears are sensitive to certain things, and I think a lot of us know of violence. Obviously, I'm also from Chicago, like Drew said. So we know about violence, and a lot of us have lost people to violence. So even when I was talking about it last time that I brought it up, I'm saying it now, but I intentionally did not use the word. I think I said accident or incident because I felt the same way that Drew said. It's not about tiptoeing around the topic because we know what happened. It's just about censoring yourself a little bit. And if that's the way that you communicate, that's the way that you communicate. But I just don't understand this narrative that there's something being hidden or swept under the rug. We've all known about it forever now. Kandi addressed it. I don't know what details everybody is looking for. And this isn't even me trying to be adversarial or argumentative. I genuinely want to know what information are y'all missing that y'all need to hear. Like, what about that situation do you need to hear? Now, if you feel like, which I disagree with, if you feel like Kandi has hid stuff and hasn't really talked about her life, fine, but I don't think that this situation lends itself to that. It is one of the weakest arguments I've ever heard in my life, and I think it has to go along with MARLO. The fact that MARLO was so pissed to even go out of her way to get into it with Drew, like, well, you brought it up, but you didn't say the word. You're trying to make a moment at the end of the day, and that's where I get upset because this whole episode I felt like was just happening and it was moving pretty well, and then we get MARLO trying to make this scene, and it's like, MARLO, we haven't even really seen much from you in the last couple episodes, so now finally for you to get some airtime, you want to make a scene about something that's so stupid and so trivial because you want to call Kandi out. Like, what do you think is, I keep asking the same question because I genuinely want to know, like, what impact do you think that this is going to have? Like, I don't understand. I really don't. I think that MARLO was trying to create a moment. I think that was super lame of her. And even for her to say that she was upset with Kandi about how Kandi handled MARLO's own cousin, I didn't see that. Like, even when they went back, I can understand you. When MARLO did her video on Instagram, she did vocalize it well and say, I don't think Kandi addressed it well enough for me. When Kandi texted her and said, that's unfortunate or whatever she had said, maybe MARLO felt like that was passive and she wanted more. And then even MARLO even said, like, you know, he worked for you, so why wouldn't you send something on behalf of OLG, or why wouldn't you contact his family? But my thoughts on that are like, how many employees does Kandi have, and how well does she even know this young man? You know, it is unfortunate that he passed away, but who's to say that she even knew him personally? Yeah, he worked for one of her restaurants, but that doesn't mean that she knew him personally. And so I don't know. Like, I don't know if MARLO was genuinely upset about that. I've already said I don't know how genuine MARLO is, but I think that she's upset with Kandi just because she's upset with Kandi. She isn't upset with Kandi because Kandi doesn't share. And she kind of leaked some tea as well, saying like, well, production wanted them to push Kandi to talk about the Blaze incident. So I think she's using that to say like, see, like, the internet says Kandi doesn't share enough. Production says she doesn't share enough. So she doesn't share enough. Like, that's why I'm upset. No, girl. You're upset at Kandi because you're upset at Kandi and you're bitter. And you're bitter because she's Kandi and you're MARLO. I feel like everybody's just like, oh, Kandi doesn't share enough. That's BS. At the end of the day, y'all don't like Kandi. And it's okay to not like Kandi. It's okay to not like people, period. I just would like to be clear. If you don't like somebody, say you don't like them. If you're upset about Kandi not sharing enough, say that you're upset about her not sharing enough. But let's make these things make sense. Because right now the math is not mathing. MARLO's trying to create moments. And if Drew, who is famous for having to make moments back in the day, if she's famous for clocking that T and being like, girl, I'm not doing this with you because you're doing too much and you're trying to make this a thing, and it's not a thing. It was in the news. It was in the news. Like, shut up. I don't understand why MARLO put out a video on Instagram to reiterate exactly what she said on the show. She basically said, if y'all didn't understand where I was coming from, I want to give it more context. There was no more context at all. Like, it was exactly what you said on the show. Didn't make sense then, doesn't make sense now. So for her to be like,
so do y'all get where I'm coming from?
No, the hell we don't. I don't know if y'all are looking for ratings. That's not really my thing, but I try. So I would give this episode like an 8 out of 10. And that's kind of all I got. We will see what happens next.